Hi guys, welcome back to George Reads once again, where today we are reading chapter 20 of Slime by David Walliams. Last time in chapter 19, Ned and Slime woke Madame Silenzio Sloth, the world's laziest piano teacher, woke her up, and the sound was so loud she shot up through the roof and then crash landed back down onto her piano. How is she still alive? But in today's chapter, we will be having a look at the brand new pair of grown-ups. I say pair because there's two of them. I'm not going to give away any more because that will spoil it. But I wonder what mischief Ned and Slime would cause next. So far, they have done loads of things to the world's most horrible grown-ups. And speaking of David Walliams and horrible grown-ups, yesterday I got the World's Worst Parents book, which is David Walliams' newest book. I suggest you go order that. It's a great book. I've read about 1/3 of it, maybe half of it already. I'm a very fast reader. But guys, if you're excited for today's chapter, please leave a like and subscribe. That'd be greatly appreciated. But without further ado, let's read chapter 20 of Slime by David Walliams. I hope you guys are excited. Chapter 20, Gruesome Twosome. Glutton's Glaciers was the name emblazoned on the island's one and only ice cream van. The proprietors was a husband and wife team, Glenn and Glenda Glutton. They were meant to sell ice cream, but instead they ate it. All of it. Every last bit. The technique they had for stealing from children was foolproof. The van would be parked up outside the playground or school or beach, anywhere on the island where children could be found. Then Mrs. Glutton would appear at the serving window. "What delicious ice cream would you like, my dear?" she asked in her nice voice. She had a nice one and a nasty one. More of the nasty one in a moment. "Ooh," Ned cooed, looking at the sign with all the delicious toppings. "Take your time, my dear." "A Misty Whippy with chocolate sauce and chocolate chips and a chocolate flake, please." Ned really liked chocolate. "Wonderful choice, my dear. Now, money first." "Can you change a £1 note, please?" asked the boy. It had been a Christmas present from his grandmother. "Of course we can, my dearest of dears." As soon as Ned had passed the money over, she snatched it out of his hand and yelled, "Mr. Glutton, drive!" This was in her nasty voice. Glenn Glutton, who'd been sitting in the driving seat all along, then put his foot down on the accelerator pedal and they sped off. Brum! As they did, the pair shouted, "So long, sucker!" Poor Ned was left at the side of the road in a cloud of burning rubber smell from the tyres, with no ice cream and no £1 note. How could the Gluttons be allowed to get away with this? Greta agreed, of course. There had been so many attempts to bring the pair to justice, but greed had stepped in every time to prevent them from being arrested. To think that this awful duo had made so many children miserable caused the old lady's dark heart to sing with joy. The Isle of Mulch often had visitors providing fresh victims from the Gluttons. The gruesome twosome were not the best advertisements for their own ice cream. Both ate so much of it straight from the pump that their teeth had turned black or fallen out altogether. Sometimes a rotten tooth would fly out mid-sentence and hit a child on the head. Because they ate so much ice cream, Glenn and Glenda Glutton had ballooned. So much so that they never left their van. They couldn't! It was impossible for them to fit through the doors. So the Gluttons slept in the van, they ate in the van, they even did their doodahs in the van. Just don't ask for the chocolate sprinkles. They don't smell anything like chocolate. As Ned zoomed over the island on his slocket, the Walliams dictionary is never wrong, he spotted a long line of children. They were from the posh boarding school on the Isle of Twaddle. Their hideous purple and yellow blazers gave them away. The pupils must have been on a trip to see the world's most boring tourist attraction, Mulch's medieval fort. It was just a little ruin, little more than a few old stones jutting out of the ground. Because it was old, grown-ups decided the children had to go and look at it, often for hours at a time. "Dive!" ordered the boy. Still riding the slocket, he hovered over the heads of the children. They were too sad to even crack a smile at a rocket made of slime. "What happened?" Ned called out from above. "It was one of those rotten ice cream sellers," sobbed one. They took a mammoth order of ice creams from our whole school and made off with all of our pocket money, blubbered another. The pair was so rude, they shouted. So long, suckers, as they sped off in their dirty old van, snuffled a third. We thought having ice cream would help us get over the crushing disappointment of having visited the world's dullest tourist attraction, bawled the fourth. But we were wrong. It's made the school trip the worst day ever, yowled a fifth. I would actually prefer to be at Twaddle College for noble offspring right now doing double mathematics. Surely nothing is worse than double mathematics, exclaimed Ned. This is, replied the previous child before bursting into floods of tears. Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo! That set all the Twaddle children off again. Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo! It was a symphony of sobbing. These kids are really annoying, murmured Slime. Shh! Shushed Ned before turning to the children to ask, which way did the gruesome twosome go? All of the children were bawling their eyes out, actually unable to speak. Oh, for goodness sake, muttered Slime. Shh! Instead, the children pointed, fortunately all in the same direction. Thank you, kids. Slime, that way, ordered Ned, and he zoomed off. I'll be back, twaddlers. Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo! The Isle of Mulch was a network of long, windy country roads, sheltered by trees, so it was difficult to spot vehicles from above. But then, Glutton's Glaciers was no ordinary vehicle. This great pink monstrosity, with a giant model of a Mr. Whippy ice cream on its roof, would be visible from outer space. Soon, the van rolled into view, and Ned signalled for Slime to zoom down beside it. At first, Mr. and Mrs. Glutton didn't see the strange sight of a boy riding a slocket zooming beside them. Glenn was in the driving seat, devouring a humongous handful of ice cream with a flake sticking out. Ned tapped on the driver's window to get the brute's attention. At first, Glenn smiled and nodded back, before the surreal display made him slam on the brakes. The screech! The ice cream he was scoffing went everywhere, all over his face, splat, and all over the windscreen, splat. Meanwhile, in the back, Mrs. Glutton had been counting the cash she'd stolen from the twaddled children. Because of the sudden stop, she found herself upside down on the floor of the van. Help me, you fool! She cried out to her husband, unable to pull herself up to stand. I can't see! Shouted Mr. Glutton as he scrambled over his seat into the back of the van. As he did so, his huge foot knocked the cap of the ice cream pump. Splurge! Mr. Whippy began swamping them. Ah! Cried Mrs. G. My body is frozen! Still blind from having a face full of ice cream, Mr. G tripped over his wife and fell right on top of her. Oof! He cried. Ouch! She cried. Get off me, you great lump! I am not a great lump. No, I am sorry. I got it wrong. You are a massive lump. Ned, who was still hovering outside the window, burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha! Someone's laughing at us, barked Mr. Glutton. They are really going to get it, bawled Mrs. Glutton. And that's the end of chapter 20. What a horrible, greedy pair those gluttons are. It will be very, very satisfying for Ned to bunk them off as well. And Greta Greed seems to be the one that's in charge of all these grown-ups and making sure they're never brought to justice. I wonder what Ned the Slime will do to her. But for now, that's all from me. If you guys have liked this video, please show it by smashing that like button and the subscribe. And if you happen to be a big supporter of my channel, then I thank you very much for all of the love and support you've given me. It really means the world. But for now, I've got to tune out. Bye.